Okay then, if everybody can hear me, we're just about to go live, but I've just got a few little things to fiddle with, and we shouldn't be long with the next episode of Rise from Your Grave. Yo-yo. Oh god, I should never say that. I'm too British to say yo-yo. Yo-yo, go-go, I can't say anything at the moment. How's everyone doing? Hopefully good. Right, let's get to it. The most seamless transition I have ever done. Hey, oh, 2 Soul Reavers, excellent. 2 Raziels. If you haven't guessed, today's game is going to be Legacy again, Soul Reaver. When I, again, much like last week's game, Rayman 2, when I first came across on Dreamcast, but I've played it a few times across both the Dreamcast and PS1, I think it was. I want to say PS2 for some reason, but I know there wasn't a port or an upscaled version. And it's available on the PlayStation Network for download in the EU anyway. But no, I think it was just PS1. And obviously PC, which is what we're playing on today. Ooh. So yes, the PC version has been a bit of a bugger to get going. I'm going to try and play it with a controller, but you'll see quite quickly why it's a problem. But yeah, we should probably jump right into this. Let's get going. So feel free to, let's see, I should quickly pop out of this, get the chat up on my screen. That's better. So here we go. I'm having to fiddle with 7 things at once here. Right, where are we? Huzzah, I think. Huzzah? What I'm going to do is look at the chat. I'll put you up there. Put you up there, chat. Hopefully somebody will start squawking at me. Don't watch in silence. Tell me how bad I am. Ah, here we go. So I'm going to be playing with Xbox 360 wide controller, which is somewhere around here. Floor next to me, because I'm for professionalism. Oh, I'll just push start for myself. Now there's a issue with the sticks, so I'm not 100% sure how well this will run. But anyway, so Soul Reaver is an interesting one. A lot of people came to Soul Reaver just on its own, partly because it was touted as mature, if that's the correct way of saying it, version of the Tomb Raider style game. So like a really smart alternative to Tomb Raider, and very much seen as a much better 3D platformer than Tomb Raider. Rightly so, because Tomb Raider is, or was, pretty awful to control, if I'm allowed to say that, in my opinion, which is why I never really spent any time playing the earlier Tomb Raiders, not until Legend came out, and that was more or less the perfect Tomb Raider. From that point on, it was perfect design, control scheme, perfectly fluid animation. But up until then, Tomb Raider's pretty poor when it came to controls. There was interesting stuff going on in the games, but you know. But Soul Reaver was something that at first was to an extent marketed, or at least talked about in the print media, as a game that was not only a good alternative to that, but was a nice, gothic sort of interesting vampire sort of tale. But once you get into the game, you realise that there's a narrative, a back story that you're missing somewhere. That it's really obvious once you know where it is, where to look, but it was very easy at the time to just start playing the game and start from Soul Reaver. And not understand why is it called Legacy of Kain? Maybe it's called Legacy of Kain because there's a Kain character in it, and while that's true, there's a lot more to it than that. Now, to go back to Soul Reaver, I shouldn't waffle while doing this. Legacy of Kain was Blood Omen was a game released on PS1 a few years before. So we'll start the game and you'll see credits in a minute. It'll explain things. But the game was about a nobleman, Kain, who murdered in the night by a group of bandits is offered the chance to come back and have revenge. The downside is he comes back as a vampire. However, I won't talk over the rest of this.
He drove him to create me and my brethren. I am Razio, firstborn of his lieutenants. I have served Kain a millennium. The gift continued to evolve. We became less human and more divine. Kain would enter the state of change and emerge with a new gift. Some years after the Master, our evolution would follow. Until I had the honor of surpassing my friend.
Now I always enjoyed this cinematic because at the time it felt really stunning. It's still quite nice to watch, but how it was a great opener to the story, and then a lot of the narrative, a lot of the story, a lot of the acting, the voice acting through the game series has always been really strong, and there's a sense almost of a Shakespearean level of quality to the writing. So it's almost like Shakespearean vampire tale.
I earned a new kind of reward.
In this day and age of Twilight, vampires have become a bit of a joke, but at the time it was an interesting and startling take on the mythical creatures.
There was only one possible.
But this moment with Raziel being punished for his unintentional offending of Kain,
was to suffer the fate
or at least that's how it's supposed to appear at first.
Owls on the lake of the dead. Cast him in. Tumbling, burning with white-hot fire, I plunged into the depths of the abyss. Unspeakable pain, relentless agony. Time ceased to exist. Only this torture and a deepening hatred of the hypocrisy that damned me to this hell. An eternity passed, and my torment receded, bringing me back from the precipice of madness. The descent had destroyed me, and yet I lived.
So we'll go through the exposition here. If it should load fine. Let's take a moment.
I know you, Raziel. You are worthy.
So, coming back to the game. obviously it's in the PS1 days. It's really hard to get a good tentacle monster god on screen. So it's kind of hard to tell what Raziel is talking to. But the Elder God is an interesting character, to say the least. But anyway, obviously jumping in at this point, you're like, well, you're only playing as Raziel, and you can play through the game as Raziel without knowing much about what happened before. But essentially, during Blood Omen, after Cain comes back as a vampire, he gets tied up in a large scheme to disbalance the pillars of Narnsgoth. These pillars dictate how the world grows and lives. They're different pillars to represent different facets of reality in the world. And Cain is, I think unbeknownst to it at the time, the person who's tied to the pillar of balance. All the other pillars over the course of the storyline get destroyed, and to rebalance the world, Cain must end his life at the end of the game. And at the end of the first game, you have the choice to end your life or to continue forever as a vampire. Here we go. So I'll pause it. That will do. So this game assumes that Cain chose not to sacrifice his life. So that's where we're at this point. It slowly spins out of control and there's a lot more going on. But because the Cain game, or the game starring Cain, is called Blood Omen, and this is called Soul Reaver, the Legacy of Cain subtitle jumps around a bit as well. So the next game is Soul Reaver Legacy of Cain, which confuses things all the more. But we'll get to that eventually anyway. But so, onto the problem with keyboard and mouse. So if I can do everything with the controller that I would want, except for control where Raziel moves. So I can technically play this, but if I let go of the controller, he just runs in circles by himself. That wouldn't be such a problem if the keyboard was a good enough substitute. But this being quite a long time ago now, the keyboard is not something exactly ideally built for the game. I can think of it, I think, but it's still not ideal. So I'm trying it with the basic keyboard setup, which means I would be down on this. Jump swim, devour souls, D, right, aim grapple is F, action is A, that's not so bad, S is sneak, so all these basics are all in a relatively comfortable place, except you're controlling the direction and with the right hand is the left on the arrow keys. Zoom, pad left, they shouldn't matter anyway. I'd like to let people know it's I have played this game a few times. But I don't go to keyboard is because I did grow up playing PC games and so mouse with the directions reversed. It's going to be a nightmare. Unlock the first of these warp the portal gates. Oof. Get some blue issues. I should probably save in a sec.